One of the hottest new introductions and innovations that you're going to see in the Windows Server 2008 platform is the introduction of a configuration called Server Core. Now this is going to get a lot of attention and it's going to change a lot of things. Now it still remains to be seen what kind of reception it gets out there in the real world, but Microsoft's anticipating it's going to be huge. So what exactly is Server Core? It is Windows without the Windows. Okay, it's the Windows Server 2008 installation with no graphical user interface. Pretty wild. When you install this, it boots to a command prompt. And here's one of the big deals. This has an 80% smaller footprint. It takes about 1 gigabyte of disk space to load Server Core as opposed to 6 gigabytes for the full graphical Windows Server 2008 installation. Now what's the big deal here? Well, it's more secure, and this fits in with Microsoft's overall security strategy for Windows Server 2008. That is, smaller footprint, smaller attack space, more simplicity, less complexity. This thing should be more stable. You have a whole lot less going on. You have just enough to run the operating system, and you should have more performance because you don't have a lot of CPU cycles being used up by graphics and so forth. And so this is going to be a whole different way. Now Microsoft's goal with this, number one, is that smaller attack surface. There's fewer things running, there's fewer ports open, there's fewer things happening, there's fewer subsystems, and so there's, number one, less things to go wrong, less things to consume CPU cycles, and less things that need to be patched and less things that service packs need to be applied to. So we should see less patching, fewer service pack requirements and so forth on this. And again, that meets with another major Microsoft goal on this product, and that is to get the administrators out from under this tremendous load they're under of patching and service packing operating systems. Okay. The next one is lighter hardware requirements. You've heard the Linux people for years talking about how they can take an old 486 PC, blah, 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 and they can run a web server on it, and it runs so fast, and all this other stuff. Well, you're going to see kind of the similar stuff here. You won't have to have, again, these massive processors for all the graphical requirements and so forth. So a little bit lighter hardware requirements. Better performance. Again, it's just a simpler, less complex operating system. Now, Microsoft's real excited about this, and we'll talk about the roles that it will do, but there's all kind of things in the plans out there to add more stuff to Server Core, but it does have some challenges. First of all, this is radically new for Microsoft administrators. Okay, for Unix people, Linux people, not a big deal. They've been doing command prompt stuff for a long time. But for Microsoft folks, man, without the graphical user interface, it just feels funky. Scripting is going to be a big thing in this environment, and this is going to kind of separate a lot of administrators. There's two camps out there in administrators in Microsoft world: those who use scripting and those who don't. Scripting is really cool, and so if you're up on scripting, you're going to like this. If you love using the command prompt, you're going to like it. The only way that you're going to administer this, not the only way, but the majority of the time, you're going to administer Server Core remotely using remote administration tools. Okay, and so it makes it seem a little bit abstract. So if you're not used to that kind of administrative environment, it's going to feel kind of funky for you. Now, what Server Core roles can you build? And so let's go through these real quickly. Active Directory. Now this is fabulous for an Active Directory domain controller because it's going to run minimal amount of services, and all it's going to do is Active Directory. So you don't have to use up 6 gigs of space and a whole lot of power just to run Active Directory. You can also do Active Directory lightweight directory services. You can run DHCP services, DNS. You can run a file server in Server Core. You can do media services and print server. Now, as of right now, these are the only roles that are supported by Server Core. Now, keep in mind, this thing is really stripped down. There's no .NET framework on here, which means you can't run PowerShell. And you can't run a lot of things on here. Look for this to get beefed up over time slightly and to see different versions as this thing kind of matures and it gets in place. Now, number one, remember though, this is not an application server. You can't run SQL or Exchange or Oracle. This is really going to be your network services type of installation. So the bottom line is when we get ready to install Windows Server 2008, you're going to install it in one of your choices as opposed to standard and enterprise and data center and so forth. It's going to be server core, and you'll be surprised at how quick it installs. You'll be surprised at how quick it boots up, and then just how minimalist it is. So in the next video, or a different video, I'm going to show you what a server core installation looks like.